Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be talking all about Microsoft Purview communication compliance. This seemed like a logical follow-up to the previous video, which was insider risk management. The two of these products relate very closely and use a lot of the same functionality. With communication compliance, you can protect your organization from abusive behavior, threatening behavior, targeted harassment, all that sort of thing. Nasty stuff that no organization wants to be taking place, but you have to be on the alert for. I'm going to show you all about how this works and the steps you can take to create policies and monitor with alerts and take actions with notice templates and so on. Before we get to that, please do give the channel a subscribe, give me a thumbs up and hit that notifications bell so you never miss out on a video when I put one on the channel. Your support's appreciated, but you want to get to the good stuff. We're going to talk all about Microsoft Purview communication compliance. It's coming up. So much like insider risk management, which we covered in the last video, communication compliance can be found in the Microsoft Purview Compliance Center at compliance.microsoft.com. Now I'm in as a global administrator, which I always like to point out is not really appropriate, but for the purposes of demoing, I want to demo tenant, that is fine. But you should use a more appropriate role. And for communication compliance, there are some specific roles and permissions that you need to be aware of. So let's look under roles and scopes and permissions, and let's go to Microsoft Purview Solutions and Roles. And in here, we will just sort by alphabetical, and we can see that there are some built-in roles for communication compliance here. So assign users to these roles as needed, and we can click on these to see more about them. We have communication compliance there, and we can see the role group name, the roles that are in the group, and the members of the group. Very easy to add a member just by clicking on edit and then adding the appropriate user. Scroll down and we can see more details on what the other roles in this group do. Communication compliance admins, you can see there's some slight changes in what each of the roles for communication compliance actually do. So have a look through those, familiarize yourself with them, and make sure that you are assigning them correctly. But as for communication compliance itself, if we scroll down to the solutions and click on communication compliance, it's right there. Let's collapse that side panel to get more screen space. And let's start with the, well, let's have a quick look at recommended actions first. If we click on this recommended actions spanner here, or wrench, we can see some of the actions that I actually completed in advance when I first used communication compliance in the tenant. And you can go through these and mark them as completed. And some are required, others are optional, some are highly recommended. So there was this one on get to know communication compliance, and if you click on these, it takes you to all the links that you can go through to complete those, and gives you an idea of the time that it will take to get through them. We've got assigned permissions to ensure your team can get their jobs done. That is required, and we've just taken a look at those permissions there. Create distribution groups for users whose communications you want to detect. Create your first policy. Review alerts, review reports. And I've completed all of these, so that's good. But that's something that should be your first step when you first use communication compliance. Let's go back and let's have a look at some of the settings, the core settings in here. There aren't quite as many as you would find in insider risk management. There is some overlap with insider risk management though, and some commonality in that you again have the choice to use or show anonymized versions of usernames, which again I've done here. You can use notice templates, and these notice templates are shared with insider risk management actually. If you watch the last video, you'll see that this is the same one that I showed you in that one, to warn of offensive email or Teams content. And this notice template is actually more appropriate in this case to communication compliance, as communication compliance itself is all about detecting and responding to inappropriate communications within Microsoft 365 services. So there we go. And sentiment analysis is the is the other thing. We have the centralized settings here. And when turned on, the sentiment analysis, which is powered by Azure Cognitive Service for Language, will be used to match items as positive, neutral, or negative. And this is going to help to prioritize which messages to investigate first. And we can turn the sentiment labels for policy matches on or off. So that's on for my tenant. Okay, so in the overview screen of communication compliance, let's see what we've got here. We've got some recommended action for your org, and that is investigate messages that contain inappropriate text, and there are some that have been detected. There are targeted harassment in 10 messages, profanity in 9 messages. Now, don't worry, this is not a real-life situation. This is me going in and testing in some Teams messages and some emails, some very colourful language and threatening behavior, which even when it's for a demo like this is feels completely wrong to do so. So that is correctly being highlighted here, that they should be recommended, and we can create policies to take care of that. We have take control of sensitive info in messages as well, and we can see that we have some detections for certain criteria within messages, and we can create policies for that as well. We already have some policies in place though, which is good, and we can take a look and see what those policies are. So here we go. At the moment, we've got 4 policies in communication compliance, and these are user-reported messages, sensitive information, inappropriate images, and inappropriate text. Now, the user-reported messages one was created automatically. These 3 I created myself previously, and that's easily done. You can create it just by clicking on create policy here, and you have some built-in options here to create the policy that you need, or from template or a custom policy. So you can detect inappropriate text or images, sensitive information types, and these are the 3 that I've got in place already. You can detect financial regulatory compliance and detect a conflict of interest. So let's go ahead and create one. I'll create one based on the financial regulatory compliance because I've not done that one just yet. And here we go. This is standard for all of the policy creations and communication compliance. And this is going to detect communications for info related to financial regulatory compliance. About this template, set up a policy to detect communications that might contain info that might be related to insider trading, such as messages containing credit card numbers. To detect this info, you can choose from built-in or custom sensitive info types, or upload a new keyword dictionary. So here we go. What are the settings that we need? Well, we need a policy name. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this in as financial regulatory compliance. There we go. We've given it a name. And who are the users or groups in scope? And you can select from all users, or you can select specific users. I'll leave this targeted to all users for this demonstration. You must put in a reviewer or reviewers here. So I shall put in a reviewer here. I will enter myself as the reviewer. And then we have some settings that have been filled in for you. And you can change these later, or you can customize the policy to change them now. So what have we got in here? We've got communications to detect, scope locations, we've got exchange teams, Viva Engage, conditions and percentage, communication direction, inbound, outbound, and internal, percentage to review, OCR enabled, filter email blasts enabled. And we've got detect content matching these trainable classifiers, and we have customer complaints, regulatory collusion, stock manipulation, gifts and entertainment, unauthorized disclosure, and money laundering. Great stuff. We could go ahead and create that policy right from here, but let's show you what customized policy looks like for a deeper sort of run through. So here we can go in and put more detail in. We can add a description for the custom policy, which I would always advise you do so, but I'm lazy, so I won't. I'll click on next, and here we've got some choices for how we can customize this process. Choose the users and groups. We can choose all users, we can select users, but we can go a step further here as well, and we can use adaptive scopes. And adaptive scopes will automatically update where it's applied based on attributes of properties that you will define. So let's just take a quick grab of that. So we can include adaptive scopes as a link for you in the description. But if we select adaptive scopes, we can add scopes into our new policy. And if we do so, here we go. I've created some scopes earlier, adaptive policy scopes. And what you can do is you can choose the one you want here, marketing department or sales department. And if I were to go into these adaptive scopes, you would see that they are based on attributes such as the user has the particular department name in their department field in their Azure AD Active Directory account. So it's things like that. So you can be very specific, very granular in what you put in for the adaptive scopes. Very powerful indeed. And it gives you that ability to be dynamic with your conditions here rather than static, which is a really good thing. But I'm not going to do that just now for this one. I'll just put this one back to all users. Excluded users and groups, you can do that as well. You can put in exclusions. Reviewers, we can add more here if you want to. Then we can click on next. The locations that we want to detect the communications in. We've got Exchange, Teams, and Viva Engage ticked. We can change those as needed. We've got an info on Exchange here, which tells us that supported attachment types are the same as the file types supported for Exchange mail flow rules. Learn what file types are supported. Well, let's take that link and we'll have that for the description. Okay, non-Microsoft apps. Your org isn't currently importing communications from any non-Microsoft apps such as Slack and WhatsApp. So we can create custom connectors for that. And again, we'll have that link so you can take a look at it. Cool stuff. Next, conditions and percentage. We can choose the direction of the communication that we want to detect. Inbound, outbound, or internal. We'll have them all. Next, under conditions, we can choose certain classifiers here, and by default we're going to detect all the communications from the users and groups that you specify. To refine the scope of this policy, it's recommended adding conditions to limit the results to communications matching specific criteria. So we can learn more about that as well for our description, but we can have things like the trainable classifiers, customer complaints, regulatory collusion. These are all currently included, and we can add more in there. We can add more trainable classifiers. We can put in additional ones, but these are the ones that are part of that template, but we can tweak that as we need to and add in things like targeted harassment and all sorts of other things that we may find appropriate. Now, it did say to put in further conditions to narrow that matching, and you can do that by doing things like current content contains any of these sensitive info types or these words or domains, lots of different criteria that you can put into place. We can have optical character recognition as well to extract text from images, and we can have a review percentage as well. So if you want to reduce the amount of content to review, specify a percentage, and Microsoft are then going to randomly select the amount of content from the total that matched any conditions you chose. So you can slide that and find what works best for you. Filtering email blasts. This setting, what this does is messages from email blasting services that match your conditions will not generate alerts. So this includes bulk email such as newsletters, spam, phishing, and malware. And you'll be able to review a report containing the senders that were filtered out. So you can select that on or off and then go next, and then you can review your settings. And it's nice and simple, really, really easy to do. Let's go ahead and create a policy. Absolutely brilliant. So our policy was updated, and it's just telling us that it may take 1 hour to activate the policy. And once activated, the policy will start detecting communications in as little as an hour. What are the next suggested steps? It's saying check policy for matches and items pending review, set up data connectors to import communications from non-Microsoft apps if appropriate, and you can learn more as well. Investigate and remediate communication compliance alerts. We don't have that link, so let's have that one too. Excellent, so we've created a policy. Fantastic, and there it is. It's right there. Amazing. So we'll come back to these in a moment. But there are two more items on the tab list at the top of the page here. We have alerts and we have reports. So quickly just taking a look at alerts. From one of the earlier policies that I set up, we did have a alert that was generated, and that matched the policy of sensitive information. So this is the sort of thing you're going to see when you have a matching alert. Now in testing mode, it's actually really hard to get these to generate, but in the real world, hopefully it'll be not so difficult, and you'll, well, in the real world, hopefully you'll have just as little, to be honest, but especially in terms of profanity and threatening behavior and targeted harassment. But in testing, I did find it really hard to generate some alerts, I have to admit. But I got this one here for sensitive information, and we can click onto that right from here. And it's going to take us straight into that policy, right into a screen, which again looks very familiar. It's got a very similar layout to the sort of thing we saw in insider risk management, the sort of thing that we'll see in things like Microsoft Purview, like e-discovery as well. A very familiar sort of layout of how we can review the matching content. If I just go back into policies right now, we can see that under sensitive information, we've got a lot of items pending review there. I've already resolved some as well, but if I click onto that, it takes me right into the same place, really. So that's two different ways of getting into the same area, which who knew Microsoft liked doing that sort of thing, eh? So cynical. Anyhow, what we have here is we can see that we've got a lot of entries here, and if I select one, we should get a little preview on the right hand side. If I click on it, actually selecting it doesn't do it. You've actually got to click on it, and we can see that here that what we have is, this is an example of almost some of that bloated bulkware, if you like, that gets sent out. And what it's showing me here is that I've been added as a reviewer in a communication compliance policy. So you will find that you'll have to go through some of these and maybe mark them as there's options that you can do here. You can tag the messages compliant, non-compliant, or questionable. So if you're confident that things like this are compliant, then you can go through and you can just select a few, and you can quickly tag as compliant. You can put a comment in, which you really should, and justify that for Activity Explorer. So justification, Activity Explorer justification, and we're tagging those items, and they will be processed and taken out of the list. So that is good. They are, well, they're not taken out of the list, they are tagged as compliant. So what you can do, alternatively, if you want them out of the list, is you can go through and assess what these are, assess if they are relevant, and you can then do things like resolve and put an optional comment in, resolve that, and then they will disappear from the list on this occasion. And you can see they moved to the resolved tab now. So if I click on resolved, I can see them right in here. And what I'm going to be able to do, though, if I made a mistake there, I could easily highlight them and I can unresolve them and put them back in the pending tab. I can also download them as well if I want to save them. So that is really cool. So if we go back into the pending, there's lots of cool stuff we can do with this. We can, as I say, select a few items, and we can do things like resolve. We can notify using a notice template. So we can choose our notice template, and we have that one to warn of offensive email or Teams content. We can tag, we can escalate for investigation, or just escalate. We can automate using Power Automate. We can download, and we can refresh. We can group these by family or by conversation, and we can customize our columns and add more columns into these columns here if we wish. So lots of cool stuff we can do with communication compliance. What you can also do is you can filter by recipient. And if we scroll down, eventually I'm going to get to Rachel Green, our old friend from Friends, and there's too many of me in here to filter out. So you have violated the team's acceptable use policy, and I sent a message to Rachel Green. Now, I'm not going to click on these and show you the preview because this is an example of where I used some foul language or threatening behavior. So I don't want to share that on screen. I really don't. But you get the picture. And this is communication compliance doing its job. It's picked up that threatening behavior, and that is something that we can deal with by a notice template, and we can follow up on that with HR and all that good stuff. So we've also got message detail reports in here. So we can take a look at the message detail reports, and we can have a look at what we have on there. These are reports that you export, and then you can download them. So that's really handy to have. You can create a message details report right from the top here, actually, and it will put it in here for download for you. And you can download the review activity. So that is really communication compliance in a nutshell. There is one more area, actually. We can see a reports area, which will take us to our recent policy matches, our resolved items by policy, and we can view by user reported messages and appropriate images and text, sensitive information. We can see the policies with the most matches in a 30-day period, users with the most policy matches, and escalations by policy also. Detailed reports, items and actions per policy, email blast senders. There's lots of cool stuff we can see here, and we can filter by and get lots of good information on. So, communication compliance, really good stuff. Really love it. Really important for any organization to be aware of and to configure to promote a safe working environment. And that is it, folks. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it so much. Hit that subscribe button if you would be so kind. Give me a thumbs up and hit the notifications bell. Ring the bell so you never miss a video. Let me know what you thought of communication compliance and insider risk management, and if you're using it, what your experience has been, if you've had any issues, how is it working for you? Do you have any questions? Hit me up on the Twitter at M365Rising or in the comments down below. Love to hear from you. Right, that's it for today. Hope you've enjoyed it. It's been a pleasure to be with you again. See you on the next video. Bye-bye.